Happy Friday, everyone. It is April 2nd, and we have a jam-packed show lined up for you today. First, our lead story, how to set clear work boundaries and stick to them. There's been a lot of discussion in the HBA Facebook community on this very subject, so look forward to jumping into that. Also, attempting scale freedom this month. We'll hear that from Angela. Jim, we'll talk about meditation on apps in YouTube and on Spotify. And finally, our special guest, Heidi Brumbaugh, will be joining us to talk about small changes and how they lead to big results. All of that and more on today's show. Let's get started.
Welcome to your Healthy by Association Weekly Wellness Check with Aaron Wolowick, Angela Pelk, and Jim Thompson.
All right, welcome to Healthy by Association. My name is Aaron Wolowick, and it is Friday, April 2nd. We are joined by a very special guest today, Heidi Brumbaugh. Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection to health and wellness.
Well, I'm Heidi Brumbaugh, CMP. I am the CEO of Technish Creative, and we are a live event production company that specializes in working with associations and corporations, producing the general sessions, the breakout meetings, turning the meeting into a show. And during the pandemic, we had to create some new lines of business. And along with doing virtual events, we launched Be Well TV, which is where you are being hosted right now. So Be Well TV is really all about wellness of mind, body, and spirit. Not necessarily just about healthy eating, healthy diet, or exercise. It's also about all of the things that bring you wellness of peace of mind. We talk about things like how to make sure you have the right insurance, how to buy a house, financial issues, starting a business, how to operate a business. A lot of people were laid off during the pandemic and started something of their own, so we have a lot of topics that are based around that. And we also host Healthy by Association.
And we are so grateful for that. We'll talk more about Be Well TV as the show goes on today, but so much great content coming out from all of you. We hope that you'll check it out if you haven't already. And again, we'll circle back to that before the end of the show, but want to welcome my weekly co-hosts, as always. I was looking at that opening reel and thinking to myself, like, all three of us look so warm in those pictures. Like, the sun's out, we have our workout gear on, and we are ready. Blood is pumping. Today, I feel like I'm in the middle of a tundra, joining from a slightly different location. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But in the meantime, welcome to the show, Angela. How's your week going so far?
Really good. Having a good week. The weather has been a little bit of everything here in Michigan. So the last couple of mornings we've canceled our walks because we just could not manage it was like 20 something degrees like on Thursday and Friday. So we're like, no, it's nice out now. The sun is out today. So this running program, I transferred the audio portion to my elliptical this week. And, it's just as easy to keep up on an elliptical. So I'm carrying on. Good week, though.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I have a slightly different story to tell this week. I am joining from a different location, my husband's office to be specific, and they've just moved in. So there's nothing on the walls yet. Also, the HVAC system seems to be working extraordinarily well, meaning the air conditioning is pumping like crazy. And so I have 12 layers of clothes on just to stay warm in here today. So hopefully we'll get that resolved here shortly. But Jim, as always, it's a pleasure to see you. Want to check in with you and kind of see how your week's been going.
Yeah, so things are going great. Just we were like Angela said, this week has been crazy with the weather. It has been just all over the board. Like literally woke up this morning and it was like 25 degrees outside after being in the 70s this past week, earlier this week. So it's kind of put a damper of getting outside, but I've had a chance to do some, just kind of been doing some outdoor workouts the past few evenings, which has been kind of nice. And hopefully, even though it's cold, I want to try to actually get out and go for a run this afternoon. So hopefully with Easter weekend, we can have some extra time and get to enjoy spending some time with our family and eating some good food on Sunday. So.
Yeah, that sounds great. Absolutely. I know. We're cooking some special foods this weekend. Angela and I, in the past, have talked about this a million times over in terms of special holidays coming up. You're making some things that you only have once a year. It's time to appreciate those things, but maybe not overindulge or be mindful of how much of that thing you're eating. And also sliding in that workout, that movement at some point, even if it's not a run, but it's some sort of move around the block or even in your home. Finding balance is so important. And our lead story today is about finding and setting clear work boundaries at work and how to stick to them. So I want to introduce this topic a little bit more. I shared it a little bit earlier this week in our HBA community, and it was one of those articles and posts that captured a lot of people's eyes and a lot of comments posted to it as well. So I'm going to be sharing some of those as we dig in. But let's think about this topic for just a moment. How do we set clear work boundaries? Work isn't who we are, not even if we love our jobs. There's more to us than just that. So having clear boundaries doesn't mean that we won't think about work when we're not working, but that we have sort of separate time for personal stuff and separate time for professional stuff. Boundaries encourage us to have that dedicated separation of work and personal times, and there are a number of ways that we can institute boundaries in our work. So I'm going to introduce these one at a time and then sort of encourage the panel to jump in and kind of talk to me about what they're hearing and what that looks like within their own context. This first idea here about how to set boundaries, healthy boundaries between work and home, is understanding your worth. Heidi, I'm going to put you on deck for this because I know that over the years, especially owning your own business, feeling like we're not enough or we're not giving enough or we're undercutting or underscoring or underpricing. We're trying to be a good partner, but it also means that we have mouths to feed and a roof to pay for as well. And that sort of balance between partnering with the community, but also knowing your worth and sort of not demanding, but sort of, rising to that occasion is so important. So I'd love to hear your take on maybe how you've begun to find that balance over the years, and not to suggest you're there as like a destination, but certainly as part of a journey.
Well, as far as partnering with the community and doing as much good as we can, that's something that we really did even more of in the last year because we had obviously a lot more time. But we also were lucky enough to have some of the manpower because we did get PPP money early on. So we were able to work with a lot of small businesses that were, trying to transition their message, or entertainers that were trying to transfer what they do to an online platform. And so we worked with a lot of entertainers. We've worked with a lot of associations and meeting planners that needed to get their message online. So we did that a lot of times for free because we were in a position early on that we were able to do that. So as far as working with the community, we've done a lot of that, but also Be Well TV is really designed to be kind of a service to the community because not just our community, but a worldwide community, because I felt like people were really kind of in a position where wellness was kind of forgotten. We just neglected so many things with our health and fitness and mental space in the last year that I really felt like it was important to give something to people and provide information to kind of counteract that. And then as far as myself, at first it was just something to do and we needed to have that new idea. But it's amazing how in the short time we've existed, it's just become part of my being. So it's really transformed my life personally as well.
That's awesome. I love that. Angela, I'm going to come to you next. Sort of item number 2 here, which got a lot of traction from our community this week, is about being clear and concise. Oftentimes when we start conversations, some of that doubt sort of creeps in, meaning we say things like, sorry to bother you, but I'm just curious about, or I hate to be a pain, but could you please help me with this, or whatever. We sort of like temper ourselves with the anticipation that the other person is going to say no or put up their own boundaries. And so I'm just kind of curious, based upon your own experience, how do you sort of reinforce being clear and concise with also standing your ground?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think it stems from a little bit of people pleasing. Where you're like, oh, I really hate to ask, but you're going to get the ask out there anyway. So, if you can practice being direct with these things, like, we need your help, not, we're hoping you have a minute to spare to possibly help us share our content. Like, hey, like us, share us, just be direct. And, it gives a little bit of different energy, I think, almost too. But I think, being in community, like our community in Farmington, I mean, we're a family business. So the lines personally for us are very blurred a lot of the time. And but being in the community where we are, there's a lot of collaboration. And so just, I think, like, a direct approach is really effective.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for your insights on that. I want to share one, and then Jim, I will lob one over to you as well. The third one on this list is manage and negotiate expectations. And just kind of the reminder here is that whether it's a job, whether it's a contract job, we start with a certain scope of work. We start with a certain list of expectations that we're intended to complete with a client or with our place of employment. And when expectations aren't clearly defined or the scope begins to creep, it causes a lot of stress. It causes stress for the worker, the employee. It causes stress for the employer as well, and for the organization and everyone else that sort of touches that particular project. And I think this is a place where taking the time up front to set clear expectations, and when sort of the book of work begins to creep outside of those expectations, it's really important to have a conversation. I know a lot of us may feel like we're non-confrontational, and the way to go is to not raise a stink or not to introduce kind of your dissatisfaction. But quite honestly, there are very effective ways in order to have productive, conflict-free conversations that raise points that are maybe unpopular or that you feel nervous about. One of the ones that we use at EventGuard is called the nonviolent communication process. It's just a very simple step process where people kind of share what their observations are about a scenario. They talk about their feelings. They move into what their needs are, and then some sort of outcome or resolution. And as long as you're using a framework, I think sometimes that can be helpful for people to have conversations that they might not otherwise want to have, and which induce a lot of stress. So the last one that I want to share on this list, this one's coming to you, Jim, is remote work needs boundaries too. Remote work needs boundaries. Working from home sounds ideal for those who have never had the opportunity, but working remotely requires a heightened consciousness to make space for ourselves in and around work. And we've talked about this a lot in terms of having separate spaces, in terms of getting up and moving throughout the day, not sort of allowing work to spill into your home or your evening life, and on and on. I'm just kind of curious, I know you're spending some time at home, some time in the office. I'm just kind of curious how you continue to navigate this balance 1 year later.
Sure. Well, I think, and this is something that I've encouraged a lot of our staff to do as well, because while I'm kind of back in the office most of the time, we do still have a lot of our staff who are alternating between being in the office and still working from home. And so, one of the things I just always try to encourage them to do is say, just like you would leave this office at 5 o'clock or a little after 5 o'clock during the work week, it's the same thing, for you at home as well. Like, don't feel obligated because you're working from home that you need to be on the computer, because I don't expect it. The staff doesn't expect it. I won't be emailing you at 6:30 or 7 o'clock expecting you to be responding to me for something. I try to set those boundaries up front so that they realize that that's not expected of them. But on the flip side, too, is, when we have staff meetings at 8:30 in the morning, while yes, there's those boundaries that you need to make sure that personal life doesn't, work doesn't creep into personal life, but at the same time, you do have to respect those boundaries as well. That, at 8:30 in the morning when we have a staff meeting, you're expected to be on, you're expected to be on your camera. We've had some conversations with some staff who, didn't have their cameras on during meetings, and the reason, we want to make sure that they're up and ready to go into work, because that's kind of what's expected of them. But we also don't expect them to work beyond those hours either. So it's just really making sure that they understand, sort of the framework, what's expected, and we're not going to expect more than you either. So
I also love the idea of like coming back to those expectations on an ongoing basis, whether it be monthly or quarterly, just kind of reminding ourselves and really checking in with the team in terms of, is there anything that should be changed or adjusted? It's interesting, I think, over the past year to sort of pay attention to how all of our feelings and emotions and our approach to work at home or in the office have changed, how they change on an ongoing basis. And so I love the idea of also checking in periodically to see if there's anything new or different that needs to be addressed. All right. Heidi, I want to turn back to you now to talk a little bit about small changes and how they can lead to big results. I know certainly you're seeing that in terms of Be Well TV, but I'm sure in other areas of your health and wellness journey as well. So I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, definitely. So at the beginning of this year, it wasn't really a resolution because I feel like resolutions are very easy to break, so I don't do them. But I was really ready for a change, especially since we launched Be Well TV, and I'm hearing these voices all of the time talk about topics related to wellness. So some of the changes that I made that have, like, I'm really starting to see pay off. There's a handful, but one of them was, first of all, getting in the proper mindset. So in order for changes to really set in, you have to mentally want them. You have to know why you want them. And for me, like, I was really unhappy last year, largely because of the pandemic, but not only because of the pandemic. There were a lot of things just making me kind of angry. You know, politics were obviously in your face all the time at the end of the year, and just a lot of things. Some personal things that I went through, but I needed to really adjust my mindset. So I started reading, and I started with some books that were based on managing your emotions and dealing with the surroundings and how different people respond to the same surroundings, but respond to them differently. So that helped me get into the proper mindset. And then once I got there, I started to look for things that I could change about my routine, not go on a diet, not start an exercise program, but things that I was mentally ready and prepared for. A very simple change that I made was going to bed earlier, because I realized I got into a terrible sleep routine where I was staying up really late and I was exhausted all day, and I wasn't doing anything productive, so there was no reason to stay up late. So I realized if I'm not being productive after 9 o'clock, I might as well go to bed at 9 o'clock and wake up and be productive in the morning after I've gotten rest. So once I got into that routine, I started to add daily activity, which I had really lost. I wasn't being active in a while. So I added not like a major exercise routine or anything, just some daily movement, yoga, walking, small things that were really easy to add to my schedule. And then I just changed the way I thought about how I eat. I didn't really think that I ate a lot of bad food, junk food, or anything, but I realized that if I could if I could identify myself as a healthy eater, then it became who I am. So now, like, I don't even crave donuts because I'm not a person who eats donuts. It's not that I'm avoiding donuts. It's not that I'm on a diet and can't eat donuts. It's just I don't eat donuts. So those small changes, mostly in the mindset, have led to really big results.
Well, and, I think that so many of our viewers think about health and wellness, or they're in the association or hospitality industries, and they hear either healthy by association or health and wellness. And to your point, they think like, oh, I'm not that person. Like, I'm not, either completely fit or working out every day or whatever it is. But we sort of stumble into these paths in a way that maybe we didn't anticipate for ourselves. I stumbled into HBA several years ago at this point. You've stumbled into this as well. And at some point, the sort of movement, it sounds cheesy or corny, but it does take over you and your body and your approach to eating, to moving, etc. But it's not only about that. And that's one of the things that I love about Be Well TV. I mean, you introduce such great topics outside of sort of food and movement, including financial freedom, which I think is just a great reminder that there are so many components of health and wellness that contribute to our overall well-being. Angela, I want to come to you. I know that your topic for today is about attempting scale freedom, and we sort of heard Heidi talk a little bit about weight and the scale and eating, because I think so many of us, and I'm not suggesting that Heidi or anyone is tying their sort of self-worth to a number on the scale, but it's hard when we're inundated with all of these marketing messages around us all the time about being a certain way or looking a certain way, that it can be challenging and it can be overwhelming to push out some of those thoughts and ideas. And I recently saw a campaign around health at any size. I seem to see it periodically jump up, and it's just such a great reminder that just because someone looks a certain way, it doesn't mean that they're unhealthy. And so I'd love to hear more about kind of what you're experiencing this month and what you're trying to attempt.
Well, I have to say, the whole time Heidi was talking, I'm like, yes, 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 good, yay. I'm like super proud of everything that you've done, because for me, I would say that is exactly the right approach. None of this should be all or nothing. Like, if you can look at some of the things that you're doing, and know that they're moving you toward health and wellness and not away. Like every time we make a choice, it's going to move us a little bit closer to our health and wellness goals, or a little bit further away. And sometimes that's okay. Like it's okay to, if we're talking about food, like have a splurge, or if we're talking about exercise, like skip a day to actually rest. That may actually be a step toward your health and wellness goals. But for me, again, like Heidi, I decided that, a lot of my 2020 sitting around and eating garbage and, just not moving as much as I should or had been used to didn't do me any darn good. And so, again, instead of making a resolution, I said, all right, I'm going to listen to a good podcast. So there's, some mindset inspiration, and I'm going to go on the elliptical for 20 minutes a day. If I cannot get my butt off the couch for 20 minutes a day, we got other problems. But so that's what I decided to do. And I've been doing it. I've maybe missed a couple of days. Like I missed last Wednesday because I was at work, but I got 8,000 extra steps in. So I'm calling that good. But again, still for me, the scale is like my nemesis. And as much as I have read programs that say, it's information. And if you can take it as information, that's great. I'm not taking it as information. I'm taking it as, you know why you're up 2 pounds from yesterday. It's because of those 4 cookies you ate. Okay. Any mental, rational person, I don't think would blame 4 cookies for a 2-pound weight gain. I'm a woman. There's water, there's hormones, there's all this other stuff going on. So I was talking to a friend. She's like, are you eating great? I'm like, yeah. She's like, are you exercising? Yeah. Are you, writing everything down? You're drilling. There's nothing crazy that you're hiding. I'm like, no. She goes, ditch the scale. I'm like, you're right. I woke up yesterday, didn't get on that scale. I had a great day. Today, great day. Bye scale.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate that story so much. Jim, in our sort of few minutes remaining, definitely want to hear more about meditation from your lens and perspective. I think that you've been looking into apps and YouTube and Spotify, and would just love to hear more.
Sure. So I think I've mentioned this on the show before, that I have for the past several months now, I've been having some issues with sleeping and just mental stress. And I started looking into the Calm app and, some of these other things. It was just shocking how expensive those things were. And so I just kind of started looking around and was just amazed at the variety of resources that are out there, even just on like YouTube and Spotify. I've actually, on Spotify, there are several, if you just search meditation, there's some great just like either podcast or just other just channels. People have come up with little like different playlists that have various meditations on there. They're so fantastic. And for the past probably several weeks now, I found several playlists on Spotify that just have really calming music. So they're like meditation like music that are on Spotify, and it's been amazing to just put those on at night and just unwind and relax, and just helps me just get to sleep. And even when I wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes just hearing the music, that calming, just something to just keep your mind off of all the distractions that sometimes creep in when you have some anxiety and things like that. But on YouTube, it's amazing. There's this mindful moment channel that was on YouTube it has just some of the great meditations on there, whether it's around anxiety or sleep or just how to de-stress. Anyway, I had never done meditation like that, and just doing those periodically, right before you go to bed, or like an hour or two before you go to bed, even if it's a 15 or 20-minute thing. And I've even done some during the day, like when I'm just kind of a little bit stressed. And there's several on there that are just like 10-minute meditations that you can just pull away from a little bit and just do those, and just it's nice to have that calming effect a little bit.
Well, and it ties in so well with what Heidi was saying about sort of these small changes to make a big difference. Don't jump into the hour-long meditation. Don't jump into the half an hour long meditation. Start, 3, 4, 5 minutes, maybe increase to 10 minutes, and just sort of see how it goes. Listen for the ones that have sort of a guided voice that sort of help you scan through your body, or listen to the ones that are just music playing in the background. Just sort of experiment and play with each to see sort of what you like and what you don't like. You also mentioned sort of the Spotify playlist, and I just want to remind our viewers that we have nearly monthly new Spotify playlists up on our Healthy by Association channel that we would love for you to check out and download. They're free. And we try to have a new theme each month. But what people have appreciated about them so much is that they change. Like, we get into our rut. Like, the playlist on your phone or the playlist in your app are the same, week after week, month after month, year after year, and sort of switching it up on an ongoing basis can also help drive and motivate your workouts as well. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. All right, so as we prepare to wrap up, Heidi, I want to come to you and just sort of ask you if folks want to learn more about Be Well TV or get in touch with you and sort of the various shows that are on the horizon on deck and live new shows kind of being recorded and pushed out on a weekly basis. What's the best way to get in touch?
Well, I hope everyone goes to bewelltv.online and subscribes to the newsletter. That will put you on the list to receive information about new shows that are coming on board and events, because we have several events that are on the horizon, the first being Be Well Con in Orlando in December. But if you wanted to reach out to me, I am on Facebook, LinkedIn. Those are the best two ways. Heidi Brumbaugh, and of course we have Be Well TV, Be Well Con on Facebook, and Be Well TV 2020 on Instagram, and Be Well TV on LinkedIn.
So lots of ways to get in touch, which I love, and just so much new and exciting content being posted all of the time. You don't have to be a 100% health enthusiast to enjoy and benefit from any of this great content. Sort of dip your toe in where is most appropriate for you and sort of see what Be Well TV has to offer. Well, thanks, Heidi, for joining us today. Certainly appreciate it. Jim and Angela, it's a pleasure as always. Good to see your smiling faces. Next week, I promise to join from a slightly more interesting background and location. Just a couple of quick things I wanted to tease first. I posted in our Healthy by Association Facebook community that we are still struggling with finding a repository for healthy recipes. And so if you've done that with your family, with your organization, and might be willing to help us out, please reach out to us. We would love to kind of create that space where people who follow us can share some of their favorite recipes, so we can begin to share them across our families as well. Next week, Kara Nakarado will be joining us. Very much looking forward to that. In the meantime, this has been Healthy by Association. Until next time, please remember to power your life with health, wellness, and intention. See you next week, everyone.